Welcome back to American Christian or Christian American. This story is a particular hard one to talk about, I think, but yet it has to be talked about. It's not that there haven't been other horrible things that have happened throughout racism, throughout slavery. I know that there has been, and there are many people that probably don't even know about all the atrocities that happened. I don't know that we can ever know all of them. But the ones that we do know are horrific. It shows a nation that while it claims to have God, is godless, evil, and corrupt. It doesn't mean that there weren't good people in this country. But this country has been governed by horrific and evil people. I know that different people have turned around and done better. And we may never know all of them that did. But there were so many more who lived their lives as despicable, evil people who would hurt other people. And I believe take pleasure in it. Because how can you do some of the things that people have done without taking pleasure in it? And I don't understand taking pleasure in those things, but it doesn't make any sense. They took pleasure in hurting black people in this country and other people. It didn't take much in many situations for white racist people to attack black people. Small little things. A look, not keeping your eyes focused on the ground. Whatever they could find. And to use a black person as an example so they could have power over other people. But how could anybody do this if they weren't actually enjoying what they were doing? We got 3 clips today. A talk about a young man named Emmett Till, who would be 83 years old if he had lived. He was 14, 1955. A handsome young man, still a boy, but in transition between boyhood to manhood. Yet he still didn't understand a lot of things about this world. And even though there was racism all over this country, he didn't understand the things that would happen in Mississippi. It saddens me to think about this and to think about the people who are in my life, whom I love and care about, and what their ancestors had to go through, and what they go through today. Because some things have changed, but really this hatred has not gone away. It's still here. Certain laws prevent it, but we're in a time right now where they're trying to be repealed as many as possible. Will we repeat this? And it's not that it's gone away. There's still, this stuff is all around us. Any chance people can get who have this hate, they carry it out. Let's get some clips in here and we'll talk.
The brutal murder of 14-year-old Emmett Till remains one of the darkest moments in the civil rights era. On August 20th, 1955, the Chicago teen went to visit relatives in Money, Mississippi. While there, Till and a group of friends went into a store to buy candy. Unaware of the racial tone in the Mississippi Delta, Till spoke to a white female storekeeper in a manner she deemed offensive. On August 28, 1955, the storekeeper's husband, Roy Bryant, and his half-brother, J.W. Milam, abducted Till at gunpoint from his great-uncle's home. They drove him to a shed where they took turns torturing and beating him with a pistol. The pair then drove the battered teen to the edge of the Tallahatchie River. There they ordered him to remove his clothes and shot him in the head. Then they attached a heavy fan to his neck and rolled his body into the river. On August 31st, 1955, the body of Emmett Till was discovered by two young boys. Heartbroken and grief-stricken by the brutality of her son's death, Mamie Till Bradley defiantly held an open casket funeral in Chicago for her son. She even sent pictures of his disfigured body to newspapers and magazines, saying the whole nation had to bear witness to this. Blacks, including young kids like myself, saw this horrendous picture in Jet magazine and other black publications. In September 1955, Bryant and Milam were indicted for Emmett Till's murder. During the three-day trial, prosecutors presented testimony from Till's great-uncle and Willie Reed, an African-American sharecropper who overheard Bryant and Milam torturing Till. On September 23, 1955, after deliberating for just over 1 hour, the all-white male jury found the defendants not guilty. 7 years after their acquittal, one juror admitted during an interview that most of the jurors believed Bryant and Milam were guilty, but acquitted them because the mandatory punishment of life in prison or death seemed too harsh to impose on white men for killing a black boy.
This was a 14-year-old child, a boy. No, he wasn't like we consider a child between, birth and up till 10, 11 years old. He was at the beginning of the precipice of changing from a boy to a man, but he was still a child. He was still a boy. But he was learning and growing, but he didn't know a lot of things. He just didn't really understand how much this nation hated him. As a young man, who knows if he did something so little, so minute, that this storekeeper's wife made a big deal out of it. Let's just say for a second that he did do something inappropriate. And he was white. He would have been taken aside and perhaps scolded, perhaps encouraged to act differently or better. I don't know what else, people would have done, but they certainly wouldn't have hurt him. They would say that's not how a man treats a woman or whatever else, if he had said something inappropriately. But there is no real evidence that he ever said anything inappropriately, and he was not white. He was an African-American young child who was just visiting his family, just wanting to get some candy like most young people do, and some adults. And they took him at night off to a shed where they began beating this child. Some incidents they were using the handle of a revolver, beating his face and his body. How could they do this unless they were taking pleasure in it? Taking pleasure in inflicting pain on another human being, let alone he was not a grown man yet. He was a child, and they took pleasure in inflicting pain in this young man. For what? For nothing. Because the color of his skin, because of the threat he posed, perhaps, to white people, that if black people got too much pride or too much strength, that what would they do to white people? White people might lose power. They beat this young man, as we're going to see in the third clip, till his face is unrecognizable. I'm thinking about it, I can hear this child screaming out of pain and out of not understanding why he's being beat. Why he's not, and even though I'm sure he was taught about racism and prejudice, he just didn't understand the full implications of it, especially not in Mississippi. Every blow that they took with either the fist or the revolver to beat this young man gave these men pleasure. What kind of mind does it take to get pleasure out of beating any human being? What kind of mind does it take for that? What kind of person does it take for that? Let's look at another clip.
Then the call came. Emmett's body had been found.
And it made me start crying and yelling, and we didn't know what had happened.
The grief in the house, the sadness in the house was horrible. The screaming, the disbelief.
Mamie was just devastated. It was hard to see her heart broken.
But she had to pull herself together because she had to get the mechanisms in place to bring him back to Chicago.
Now, the Tallahatchie County Sheriff, H.C. Strider, orders that Emmett's body be buried immediately before the sun sets that day. The grave is actually being dug when Mamie gets the information that they're about to bury her son in Mississippi.
First of all, why is the sheriff even making that decision? When have you heard of a sheriff deciding that the body should be buried? There's something really that they're trying to hide here. For his mom, that was an immediate red flag. She set off a domino effect.
Miss Mamie began to call everybody she knew. She called the governor, she called Mayor Daley, she called everybody she could touch, and finally got them engaged to bring the child home.
The stopping of the burial came from Illinois. Chicago Mayor Daley, who had just become a mayor, they stepped up and got that stopped.
The same train that took Emmett down, the City of New Orleans train, brought his remains back to Chicago.
The night they brought Emmett's body back from Mississippi, everybody went down to the train station.
The body came in, understand, a wooden seal box.
Her uncle and authorities had signed an agreement that the casket would be sealed. Why would Mississippi want a sealed casket?
Emmett's mother said, well, give me a crowbar, give me whatever. What can they do to me? They've taken my son.
What could they charge me with anyway? Breaking and entering? I didn't care. The Mississippi officials were the ones with something to hide. What on earth was it? What was I about to witness?
It's powerful, and it was history changing. That one little act of, I'm gonna see my son, I'm gonna see my son's face, literally changed history as we know it.
Made a decision that would reverberate throughout history. She decided that her son should have an open casket funeral. As she put it, let the people see what they did to my boy. Emmett's body was on display for 5 days at Robert's Temple Church of God. Tens of thousands of people came to pay their respects and to see in person the evidence of the violence inflicted on this child. But what made the name Emmett Till iconic was a powerful and devastating photograph that was taken by David Jackson, which captured Mamie Till gazing down at her son's ravaged and deformed body. The image is haunting, and what these men had done to Emmett's face was horrifying. The photo, along with others, were published in Jet magazine, and the images of Till's deformed face, alongside images of him before his death, smiling and looking like the child that he was, forced people to confront the terror that Black people in the South had been subjected to for a century. Mamie Till would say, quote, I believe that the whole United States is mourning with me. And if the death of my son can mean something to the other unfortunate people all over the world, then for him to have died a hero would mean more to me than for him just to have died.
Look at the boy's face in that last clip. Look at the boy's face. Look at it. They busted his face up. To a 14-year-old child, they busted this boy's face up. And like I said, they had to be enjoying this. Why else would they do it? This gave them power or something. For a child to beat this child, they didn't just punch him once or twice. They had to punch him multiple times. I've seen people's faces who have been beaten up badly in hospital scenes and different things. Nothing like this. Now, granted, after that, they took him to the river, shot him, and threw him in the river, so his face probably absorbed water as it decomposed. This is horrible. But this is racism in this country. This is what white nationalism, white Christian nationalism, racism and hatred and power and control are in this country. How many people have been tortured to death, burned to death, beaten to death for the pleasure of somebody feeling like they're somebody because they do this? I hope I'm talking to somebody who can think about this. Are you listening to this? Do you understand what horrific, horrible things happened here? This mother's child, her pride and joy, was taken from her, not just quickly, was beaten from her. Beaten to death. Although he was still alive, but beaten and shot. And she refused to be quiet, where the Mississippi wanted to bury him, cover it up quickly, because yes, they wanted people to see some of these things so they could make sure to make other people afraid, but perhaps they thought they went just a little too far. They didn't want people to see the body. And when they were forced to give him up, they wanted to keep a closed casket. Well, the mother did not want that. She wanted the world to see what these horrible, horrific people did to her son. I'm glad she did. Because the world needed to know. And the world needs to know today when things that are horrific happen. This boy, who could have been a man who could have done who knows what, but being raised by a strong mother, he could have done some great things. He could have been a great father. He could have invented something. He could have led this world better with against racism. However, his death did culminate in more action with the civil rights movement. So something good came out of it. But still, to understand the mindset of people who would just beat on this child. It wasn't just a quick shoot, kill, although that's bad enough, but every blow they put in this child's face and his body, every time they hit him, they had to have pleasure in doing this. What kind of person has pleasure in brutalizing anybody? And what kind of person has pleasure in brutalizing somebody just because of the color of their skin, because of the threat they have to white power? What kind of mind does this? Not a godly mind. No. And yet the jury couldn't convict these people, even though many of them believed them guilty. Oh, it's like killing a rabbit or something. We can't convict a white man for killing something that's not even equal. Because black people weren't considered equal, they were inferior. Oh, it's misfortunate, but I'm not going to convict him to life in prison or death just because he beat up a black kid. That's what they're saying. I struggle with believing how horrible people can be, even though I see it all throughout history and today. Now, I'm going to compare some other things. They're not equal, but really the same thing. What about people who gang up on a person who is gay? Now, this argument is not for whether I believe homosexuality is a choice or a sin. It doesn't really matter. Because even if you believe it's a sin, where does it come when people brutalize and beat and sometimes kill a person who's gay? If you believe it's a sin, you teach about it, and if they won't accept it, you move on. But to beat on somebody, what kind of mindset does that take? And how do you equate that with being godly? If you think it's a sin, but then you go off and beat and kill somebody. Or even if you don't kill them, you brutalize them. Perhaps you injure them for life. And there's all kinds of other reasons too. That people beat on somebody, bullies, beating on somebody. Maybe not as brutal as Emmett Till, but it's the same thing. How many people who can't deal with who they are, and maybe they're bigger physically, beat on somebody else to prove that they're some kind of man? Or even women who abuse people and mock them, belittle them. Anybody who does that. What kind of mindset is that? It is not a mindset of God. It's a mindset of the devil. What about what the Republican Party and Donald Trump in 2025 have been attempting to do? Take away more health care. I mean, they've already denied health care for people who are black and other people because they didn't want black people to have it. They also let the cost of prescription drugs and everything go sky high, and they do nothing about it. So what if people die off? What kind of mind does that? What kind of mind tries to deport people out of this country who are innocent just because they want an all-white nation? What kind of mind would try to cut Medicare and Medicaid and possibly Social Security for two reasons? One, they can make a profit by privatizing, and two, just to deny it because they want more money for their friends. But really what it is about hopefully killing off more poor and black people because they don't matter. What kind of mind is that? Is it really different from the person that would beat this young man, Emmett Till, to death? People who claim to be Christians and yet would deny people and let people, black and white and others, suffer, can't get health care, suffer pain, and many people die because they don't get the proper health care. What kind of mind does that? Not a Christian mind. This isn't about whether the people who are suffering are doing some things wrong. That may be true. A lot of people do things wrong. In fact, all of us do some things wrong. But to do things that would make them suffer and not care about their welfare, for many reasons to care about lining their own pockets. Who cares if you die? Somebody else will come along to take your place, to keep us rich, to serve us. More people will be along. Who cares, right? I care. I may not know everything. I may not understand everything. I've been through trauma in my life, many traumatic things that left me in deep, deep pain to where I didn't want to live anymore. And yet what I've gone through is nothing compared to what other people have gone through, especially African Americans in this country. We need God. We don't need the God of white nationalism and evangelical movements in this country. We need God of love. And we cannot start understanding love until we understand this hate. And we have to reject this hate and stop making excuses for it. We have to remember children like Emmett Till. We have to remember all those people who yet today are going through things because of the evils of racism. We can't forget. I'm going to conclude this with a tribute to Emmett Till. And I'll just say right now, please hold on for the final clip that I'll end with. But I'll say until the next time, an American Christian or Christian American.
Score one for Emmett Till, a name that still won't fade. A boy who bore the cost of a nation's deep mistake. In a world that closed its eyes, he opened hearts instead. With every tear his mother cried, the truth was bravely said. Say his name, let justice rise. Through the sorrow, through the lies. He was more than just a child. He became a nation's trial. From the Delta to the hill. Score one for Emmett Till. Whispers turned to battle hymns when Mamie showed the world. Her child laid bare the cost of hate, his story deeply hurled. Injustice wore a smiling mask, but truth refused to bow. He never saw the Freedom March, but he walks with us now. Say his name, let justice rise. From the Delta to the hill. Score one for Emmett Till. He didn't march, he didn't sing, but still he sparked a fire within. A spark that lit the darkest night, turned the pain into a fight. Say his name, let justice rise. No more silence from the sky. Through all voices he lives still. Score voices he lives still. Score one for Emmett Till. Score one for Emmett Till.